Hi everyone, hope you're all well. We've come to the 10th episode of Pick Up the Mic and the last episode of season one. It's been a great time, and we've certainly enjoyed ourselves, and it's been great to have you all listening to the podcast as well. And don't worry, we're not going anywhere just yet. We'll be talking about season two towards the end of the episode. Just keep an eye out for that. Before I get into the topic, I'd like to introduce our regular guest, the wonderful Sam and Nishka. If you could say hi to everyone, please.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, guys. It's good to be back again.
Yes, it's good to have you guys back again as well. I've found a way to rope them in, so they're not going anywhere just yet.
They tried.
Yeah, they tried, but they're just like, what's the effort? But no, I'm glad to have the guys here with me as well. And I've also we've got a special episode on to you today because even though it's not our traditional speaker episode, the speaker is no less a very good speaker. Some might even say I'm biased because he's my brother. I've got my brother Josh, who is the founder and main head of EBI Records. So he'll be talking about EBI Records and what it is later. But for anyone who's interested, they're the ones that help come up with the music that we use at the start of the podcast. So thank you very much for that. And Joshua, if you could say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Josh. So let's get into it. So thank you everyone for your wonderful introductions. And the topic we are discussing today is one that I definitely think we can all relate to. I know I've definitely gone through that within the last year. And the topic for today is why you should never suppress creativity. Specifically, why you shouldn't suppress your own creativity. But I guess, we need to first discuss what creativity is. Now, creativity has many different definitions to different people. But essentially, it's defined as, using your imagination or using original ideas to create something, to do something new. It might sound, things that, relate to creativity, innovation or, inventiveness or inventing new things or, inventing things, developing things as well is another way that you might define it. And we can clearly see in the world around us the importance of creativity. The things that we're using today, laptops and the internet itself, all these things came from people who were creative. Even simple things in our lives, like I think we've talked about it before. Those nice bamboo socks, those came from people who were creative and thought outside the box and were doing new works and new innovation, which is very key. Today we'll be talking about creativity in our own lives. And the first point that we'll be all talking about, and I want to ask everyone is, do you do something creative in your own life? Feel free to just let us know if you could give a bit of background as well. Because I know some of you guys do. I think we all do a bit of a variety of things, which is really good. Because maybe the listeners will be able to relate to whatever we're doing, which is creative in our lives. So feel free. I guess Josh, as you're our guest today, what's something that you do that's creative in your life?
So for me, there's quite a lot of things I'm doing which are creative. So one of the things that I've been doing, as you've mentioned, I've been working as the founder of EBI Records. So it's a record label based in London where we look at collaborating with independent artists. We look at trying to find ways to match artists and producers and artists, advertisers, and being able to collaborate with them all together and also put them in a good environment so that they're ready for the industry. Because one of the things that we have seen as being a part of EBI Records is that how dangerous the industry can be, how it is very much a dog-eat-dog world in the industry, and that how if an artist doesn't understand their place in the industry, they could actually end up signing up to things they don't want to, signing up to a contract. And I would say that the example of Taylor Swift, which was last year coming into this year, is a very good example. For those who don't know, Taylor Swift was her actual masters for the songs she had created were being put up for sale but she wasn't allowed to buy the masters to her own songs. So what she did over parts of lockdown was have to re-record her own songs. So she now has the masters to it. So that means now that anytime she wants to, for example, sample her old song, she wouldn't have to then pay the present owner for it. So that's one of the things I'm creative on. The other thing that I also do is a bit of voice acting as well. So I've been doing that for the past few years. It's funny how I actually started doing it. I was working with my old workplace, which is the World Energy Council, and I was talking just generally on the phone, and I was like, oh, hello, how are you? This is the World Energy Council. Thank you for calling. And then my colleagues were like, you should really go into voice acting or even narration because you have a very good voice and the accent that you have is easy for people to understand. So then I actually started doing some of that, and it actually helped towards some of the work that I've been doing on Hit Record.
Wow, and I think that's great, especially with the voice acting stuff that you highlighted, that it wasn't necessarily something that you'd planned. It was just something that happened out of the blue, which, you know, for anyone listening, that sometimes is how, I mean, it sounds kind of random, but it is, you know, one of the things that happens with being creative. Sometimes you might not necessarily think about this is something that you want to do, but, you know, someone else might notice and say, hey, you've got a really good voice for voice acting, or, you know, wow, your photos that you take of other people are like amazing. You should do photography, or, you know, you write really good poems, or have you thought about, you know, writing stories, things like that. So yeah, thank you very much for that, Joshua.
I think all of our listeners are going to be extra excited to actually be able to listen to your voice and how amazing it is, because it is a really nice voice. It comes across so well.
Thank you.
You know, you've benefited everyone with your career, not just the creativity, but the voice as well. But yeah, no, it's a really good story. It's a really good way to get into things. Is when you've got a natural talent for them. That's where you should be, really, isn't it? Because that's your gift that you can bring. You haven't had to, like, you've already got that sort of baseline. You know, it's great. Some people do. They work to it. They build up their skills to be able to talk, to be able to do, you know, voice coaching. But if you've already got it, then that's just the perfect, natural, best way of getting into something.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of people have these gifts that they have. So either it could be writing, it could be, for myself, voice acting, it could be photography. But I think one of the things they've seen is that they see it as much as a hobby. But then now I think one thing that people are seeing due to lockdown is that I actually can turn my hobby into an actual career.
Yeah, that's really important. I think also, like you were saying, it's, you know, during this lockdown, people are realizing it. And I think also people are wanting multiple streams of income. That's a new thing that's sort of coming about. Before it was like you sort of go into a traditional role, you sort of spend most of your life working your way up the industry in that particular area. And you sort of do it every week and then every year. But now people are realizing actually it's, you know, like to have multiple streams of income. So it could be voice acting, it could be photography, like you said, it could be artistry, could be absolutely anything. But these multiple, some people, they sort of dot their income around multiple sources and sort of keep their lives interesting. And I think that's quite a good way of getting into things, like you were saying, like with what you did. To have, if you've got this natural talent, then experiment, because it could turn into something fun, but also some side job that you could be doing as well.
Yeah, thank you for that, Sam. And I guess that leads right on to you. So I think you mentioned it before, what you do in your life that's creative, but I don't want to steal your thunder. So, but Sam, what do you do in your life that expresses and shows off creativity?
My creative tendencies. I do like photography. I've got into photography quite recently. I did get into it before. I took a bit of a break from it for a few years. But just, I think my creativity comes out in different times. I can't say that I continue something all the time. I normally do something. I then get busy with coursework, could be exams, could be anything. And then I come back to it. There are some things that I do sort of continue all the way through. I'm sort of continuing photography through my careers. But I mean, prior to lockdown, you know, being at Brunel. So if anyone at Brunel, this is a great opportunity. There's the art department there, and you can go along to pottery classes, drawing, painting. They do singing as well if you're into singing. I do the pottery, and the painting. But But there's so many good ways to explore your creativity. So those are some of the ways that I do it. Again, with photography, and then the occasional bit of poetry when it just comes into my mind. I think if you read poetry, it creates a segment. There's no science here. You just got to take my word for it, but then also don't take my word for it. But it just creates like a region in your brain where you can sort of think of just like, oh, that would work poetically. That would work poetically. So it's not necessarily something that I actively pursue. I'd say it's something like poetry, something that sort of comes to me occasionally. I'll sort of think like, oh, that would be a really good bit of poetry. That's sort of this meaningful, either a meaningful idea or the way that you can put it across. Which is, I find that it really expresses how you're feeling and what you're thinking on a much deeper level than just sort of saying it to someone. That's the ways that I, express my creative energies.
I get what Sam's saying, because I kind of feel the same way, especially when I'm making music. And my brother, you can attest to it, Jeffrey, that I go around like making beats. If I hear a beat on the radio, I think to myself, how can I then incorporate and make this different? How could I, if I turn, for example, the octave a bit higher, what would that sound like? If I take, for example, a beat from a Beyonce song and I meld it into the song from Adele, how would it sound like? So I understand what you're saying, Sam. And I think that's kind of like the hobby side of it, that you see everything around you and you're being able to use that to then build up your poetry skills and say, this is what a poem that I've seen. I can add this to this poem. I can add that to this poem, and then further sharpening your skills.
Yeah, and like Josh said, I can definitely attest to him making beats. Even, and it's one of those things where even, you're just randomly like, so I know there's been times when he's made a beat and then I'll just be like doing something else and then I'll just randomly be singing it. I'll just be like, where did that come from? And I'm just like, oh yeah, my brother did it. And I was just like, wow, it really is catchy. And I'll let him know that, like, you're definitely on the right track, because this has been like, it's been stuck in my head and things like that. So yeah, thank you for that, both of you. And I guess Nushka as well. What do you do that's creative?
Yeah, I mean, first I was going to say that sounds exactly like what my brother does, because he does all this. He like creates beats and makes remixes and stuff. And I know what you mean, Jeffrey. By you'll just be humming something, you'd be like, I don't know where this is from. This is not actually something that's out there. I don't know where I've heard it from before. So yeah, I can definitely understand where you're coming from there. But in terms of my creativity, okay. So first of all, I'm not like a big writer or a big reader or anything like that. If I do read, it's more stuff to do with my work and like the literature and stuff like that. But the one thing that I'm kind of more passionate about is music. I think you both know that as well, because I do a lot of music. Like, so obviously I've been classically trained since I was like 5 or 6 in music. So I love listening and I love playing anything and everything. And like Sam was saying, Brunel Arts also has music in there, like as one of the options that you can do things. So he said there's pottery, painting, and then so I did more of the music side. So there's loads of different chamber orchestras and like quartets and stuff like that. I got involved in all of those things because that's kind of my stronger suit, let's just say. And I mean, it's a good way to kind of express yourself, because so I kind of took more of a interest in playing at like the church and stuff, because they didn't have anyone to play. And I thought, it sounds a bit like there's no music, there's absolutely nothing. So I was asked if I wanted to play and sing, just to kind of, bring a bit more life, let's say. And so I agreed. And I'm not going to lie, that was actually one of the best decisions I've ever made, because they'd been asking me for years and years and years. And I always said no, because I was never confident enough. But by them asking me saying yes, it just forced me to do it. And I mean, we play, like, obviously it's hymns, so it's different to normal, pop music. But when you kind of make it your own, just like changing a few things, nothing major, you keep everything the same, it just makes it your own. You just feel proud of what you're doing. And, the fact that you're not just doing it for you, it's kind of for the community kind of thing. So yeah, and then that's for piano. I also play viola, and with that I'm part of an orchestra, and I have been since God knows when, since I can remember. And I mean, that's just kind of taught me to be able to interact with others and keep up to everyone else's pace. If I'm falling behind, I know I have to spend time and I have to work on, my part, because I don't want to let it slip, if you know what I mean. But yeah, that's my creative side, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, I think it's really good that we all, like I said at the start, we've all got different avenues of creativity. So I guess talking about myself, so I guess sort of like Sam, I love photography, especially lockdown, I guess. So I started a photography account before lockdown, which I just like uploaded, like, I guess it was just like interesting photos. So like a photo that I took and I was like, this would be really good. I'd upload it. And then lockdown just enabled me to like truly think about, like how can I guess, do the paid, not necessarily like a professional way, but like how can I make it be better? So one of the things I've been doing is like every 3 photos, there's always like a theme. So whether they're all night photos or they're all like sunsets or sunrises or things like that. So I've been doing that a lot. But yeah, like Sam said as well, poetry was something that I did, especially in my second year. And I didn't use any of the, and I would have loved to have used the Brunel facilities for this, but it was just one of those things where I was like I was on the tube and just traveling one time, and I was just like, I really wanted to do poetry. I really wanted to write some poems, and it was just one of the things where I like said a phrase. I don't even remember what it was, but I said a phrase, and I was just like, this could really be a good like starting place for a poem. And then I just thought about, what can I use? And there's, and like people know, especially those that had to do English lit, or I think it's English lit, or language, one of the two, for GCSE, like that there's different rhyming styles and things like that. So I did a bit of like looking into that to seeing like what would work best for me, and I guess that's been really fun to do. And we'll get onto it later because, like I said, we were talking about other aspects of creativity. But yeah, definitely over lockdown, I took a big pause on the poetry, and I recently got back to it, and it's been really fun to do. But yeah, I guess as a before we go on to the next point, we can tell here that, if anyone's looking for like a musical poetry piece, and maybe to have some nice designer photos on the same day as well, you've got the 4 of us. Our email address is on our website, so feel free to just get in contact. But yeah, no, honestly, it's great to see that we're all doing these amazing things, and I think the main message that I want people to take away from this is, well, none of us necessarily started this to make money. We all did this because, these were things that we wanted to try, or, these were things that we really enjoyed. So yeah, I guess for individuals, if you feel like you don't know what you could be creative on, just think about in your personal life, like, what do you enjoy? What have you always thought about doing or trying out that you haven't actually done? And yeah, just give it a try and see how it goes. But yeah, thank you everyone very much for that. Yeah, I think it was very insightful, and yeah, definitely will give our listeners a lot to think about. Thank you guys for that. And I think it's really important to raise to everyone that, as you can see, these guys will go on to it in just a couple of seconds, but as you can see, their creative venture isn't necessarily what they're either currently employed as or what they're going to do in the future. So like for myself, I definitely want to do something related to raising awareness about environmental issues. And while that doesn't necessarily relate directly to photography or to poetry, that still doesn't mean I can't use the skills that I've learned through those different avenues to help improve myself professionally. So question to you guys is, and feel free, you're more than welcome to say, where the industry you work in or what specifically your job is. What skills, I guess the question I want to ask is, how does the creative venture that you're doing, whether it's music, photography, poetry, how does that link with the career you want to do, whether that's through transferable skills or, it just enables you to work with a network of people, things like that. So yeah, Josh, if you could just answer that for us first, please.
So for me, I'm based in the energy sector, so specifically the gas sector and energy, which is complete opposite to the music industry and voice acting. But one thing I have learned through voice acting is how to improve the presentation of my voice and also how to improve the way that I speak. So specifically going through my voice acting, through my voice recordings, I'm able to see at times I say "and" too many times, or if there's too much gaps between words, or if I'm stuttering my words or keep on dwelling on the same point. So actual voice acting has actually helped me for presentations when giving out speeches. It helps me to then, one, to gain confidence, but also to be more articulate. And another thing I've learned from the music industry, so working, creating beats and also writing music as well, it's actually helped me to increase my attention to detail. So as you know, when you're making a beat, any little inch or any little movement in a track, it could be even a few seconds, and then the track doesn't sound the same. So you have to align it in a specific location and a specific arrangement for the track to sound the way that you want it to sound. So I think that has actually helped to increase my attention to detail. And one of the things that was very surprising for me is that in the lead up to one of the events where I was working before, which I mentioned before, the World Energy Council, we were doing like a promotion video of one of the events, which is called the World Energy Congress. And then I was like, well, oh, I do some voice acting. Maybe I can do a bit of voice acting for the video and the recording we're going to do. So one of the good things there was that I was able to use my hobby and also the skill that I had outside of work and actually used it in work as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think it's key what you said there, that I know you said that it helped, your voice acting, it enabled you to do voice acting for your job, but also it's helped your public speaking. Like you said, maybe being aware of like having pauses, the ands and ums that people say during, text, or like when they're reading stuff online. You're even like the rate that you talk at. So, you're not talking too quickly that people aren't understanding what you're saying, but you're taking these designated pauses to allow people to listen to the different things that you're doing, are definitely really, key important points. So yeah, thank you very much for that, Josh. I guess Sam, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah. Josh, are you done? Did you have anything else to add as well? Just quickly.
Just one thing to quickly add. I advise everybody to just record yourself saying a few words, and then you'll see how bad you sound. And I think the weird thing is we all have a vision in our heads of this is how I think everyone hears me sound, and this is what everyone thinks I sound like. But when you actually record it and you actually hear the way you sound, you'll be very surprised.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, I was saying that to Jeffrey the other day.
Yeah.
And I'd heard myself speaking on a podcast. So I was like, I didn't know I was sounding like this. Can I change it? What's going to happen? And then, to be honest, I think there are certain times where you, like you said, you don't know how you sound and you think you sound a certain way, but actually you don't sound it. And I think everyone does experience that. But I think that being able to speak like you do, or just being able to do any public speaking is such an important task, and not such an important skill, because so many things like public speaking, you can use it for talking to your friends, talking to a group of people, talking about anything. Like if you're able to talk about topics, if you're able to explain yourself in a coherent, cohesive way that gets people to listen with interest and sort of fits the main points, then actually you're doing, it's such a skill that you can use all over life, whether it's business, social, or, absolutely anything. So yeah, because just talking as a human, we're such a communicative species. It's just such a useful skill. As for myself, my transferable skills from psychology to art, or art to psychology, I think it goes both ways, to be honest. I think art is, the method of expressing yourself and being able to, put down, for me anyway, to be able to sort of put down on paper, or just put it out there. It doesn't have to be on paper, just in any medium, how you're feeling, how you see the world, how you how you think about things, how you interact. And, so you could do a painting, and, you can use different colors, and these different colors can mean different things to you, or it can just literally just be a pure sense of just letting that emotion out, letting that sort of, that inner sort of, if you've got this inner feeling, and you just want to put it down on a bit of paper, it really helps. So poetry helps for that. If you're feeling a particular way, you don't necessarily have to write yourself a journal to log your thoughts, but you could do a daily poem to express how you felt in that day. And by the end of it, if you did that every single day for a year, by the end of it, you'd have you'd probably be able to publish a little poem series of some of the ones you selected. So there are so many good things that you can do that are sort of psychologically related, because obviously that's about expressing yourself and sort of getting into that inner dialogue that you have, and that sort of that way of seeing the world, which is so important in psychology. I mean, personally, when I'm doing art, it's just the most peaceful, tranquil, and expressive period of time. And so when I was doing it at uni, when the art centre was open, I'd have my lectures, I'd have sport, I'd have time with your friends, but then there was no time to sort of truly unwind. And I felt that when I was doing art, it was so therapeutic. I could listen to music maybe while I was doing it, but I was just left with a paintbrush, some paint, and a blank canvas. And I just start again there every week, and just do whatever comes into my mind and refine it, and sort of spend time on the brush strokes, spend time building up the image and just focusing on it. And I think it's a really therapeutic way to get out of the problems of the world, the problems of your life. Could be anything to do with friends, family, work, business, money. I mean, art is devoid of it. If you just take all of your energy away from all of that and just focus on starting again on this blank canvas and just building it up. It's such and that's why there's art therapies. So some form of art actually gets done through therapy, where you're sort of focusing on living in the moment, focusing on expressing yourself, and just focusing on just having a good time. Because I think quite a lot of our hobbies, there's like it's almost like a competition, or there's like a I don't know, this is the good way of doing it, this is the bad way of doing it. I think with art, there's no bad way of doing it. You're not there to beat anyone, you're not there to outperform. And I think just that itself just psychologically relieves you. And you need that, that way of living where you're not subject to these rules that govern normally what we do. Could be in any environment. But yeah, that's how you can sort of transfer it across, and that's why it's used in psychology quite a lot.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you are right. There is a lot of, especially when it comes to mental health, there's a lot of things you can do. And, like you said, like having, and I think that's a key thing that you raised, like having that blank canvas and just being said, do whatever feels natural to you. It's not necessarily this is right and this is wrong, but, going out and just expressing yourself on the canvas or in your poetry is sometimes, and I feel like especially for people who might feel that journaling and doing, things like that is something that they might not necessarily have the time for, is having time to, dedicate to like you said, like art or to poetry will still have the same benefits. And obviously I'm not a psychologist, so I don't necessarily know if this is true, but it will still have the same feeling of you're still expressing yourself and you're getting things off your chest, even like things that you might not necessarily feel like is an issue, but as you're doing the poetry, or as you're drawing your art piece or painting your art piece, you'll then see like, wow, I didn't know I was feeling like this before, but by doing this, I can now express myself, and I now know that, I'm feeling this type of way about something. So yeah, no, I think that's definitely a key point that you raised there, Sam.
Definitely. Because as soon as you like you said, as soon as you put those thoughts down in a different format, you could be putting it down as thoughts, but sometimes thoughts, you sort of they get lost in translation. But I think with your art, it really expresses something deep inside of you that's coming out, because it comes out in such a fluid way. It exists outside the norms of what's of what needs to be socially acceptable, in the sense of, like, let's say you've got your thoughts and you put your thoughts down on paper and they turn into words. Sometimes those words are still, you're still thinking, I don't really want to put this down. It sounds a bit like this, and I don't want to sound like that. I don't want to sound anxious. I don't want to sound depressed. I don't want to sound, whatever it is. And you put all these labels on it. But when it's going into art, there's no one that's going to be like, oh, this is a you must be, like, there's no worry that the person's thinking, like, someone's going to look at this and think I'm just being anxious or think I'm being, difficult in some way. It's like a natural way of putting it down where you don't get judgment, because it means something special to you, and someone else could look at it and it doesn't necessarily, it's almost like a hidden meaning, but obviously you can tell them. But yeah, great way of saying for yourself, seeing where you're at, and seeing for yourself as well where you're at.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Sam. So I guess, Nushka, what do you do? You said that you do music, and you've been, doing that for some time, but has that helped necessarily, has it given you those transferable skills with your career as well?
So yeah, I mean, I'm in science and research, so it's completely different to music. But yeah, there's so many transferable skills from music to science and research and everything. Like, I mean, some of the main ones are, being able to manage your time and to plan ahead, because, back when you're in school and when you're learning stuff, you have to be able to go to school and go to rehearsals and finish your work and go to concerts for, it's a lot to have to do in, with and it's hard when you're a kid, because, I mean, to be fair, you just learn to do it, to be honest, because I never found it difficult. It's just, okay, I have to do this, so I'm going to do it. But I mean, it definitely helped me at, like, when I started working now, because, I don't leave things to the last minute. I don't just let things happen. I do plan what I'm going to do. And even if something doesn't go to plan, that's another thing. You have to be able to think on the spot. You have to be on your toes all the time. So, for example, like, in music, if someone, say there's a performance and they don't have enough people, because people have called in sick on the day, or if it's a quartet and they don't have one instrument, and if they ask you to play, I mean, not only have you not seen the music before, so it's stressful as hell, but you have to just be able to do it under pressure. And I think that's something that's really important, because in the real world, not everything's going to be laid out for you in the way that you want, or it's not going to go how you plan, because that's just life. Like, welcome to the real world, to be honest. But yeah, that's actually something really, that's a transferable skill that I'm really grateful for, to be honest. And I think.
Yeah. Sorry, no, I interrupted you. No, I was going to say you're definitely right. And it's definitely something that, like you said, is definitely a life lesson that people do need to learn. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
That's okay. So another thing actually that music has taught me is, like, you have to communicate with different people in different ways. So you'll talk to the conductor in a certain way. You'll talk to your not colleagues, but the people in your orchestra or your quartet in a different way. You'll talk to your music teacher in a different way. And again, all that's transferable when you're in industry as well, because you don't talk the same way to your manager as you do to your colleagues, for example, or the same way as you do to your colleagues to people that you are managing, like students, say, for example, that you're managing, is completely different, and you have to be able to adapt to each person, I think. And I think one of the last points I'm going to mention now is one thing that it definitely taught me is to be patient, because when you're practicing something, you have to go over it again and again and again and practice it and get all the small, tiny little details down. You can't just skim over it and be like, nah, it'll be all right. You can't do that, because it will not be all right. I mean, I've done it before, and I learned that it's definitely not going to be all right if I don't take the time to practice. Like, you have to set time aside, and you might say, okay, I'm going to set an hour aside to practice, and I'm going to do this. First of all, an hour is not enough. Like, when I practice without setting time for myself, I play for at least 4-5 hours without realizing it. And I'm like, oh, I thought it was just like 30 minutes. Lol, jokes on me. But, it's that kind of thing where you just have to take time, do things slowly, and then you will see the result at the end, you're kind of playing the long game in this. And that's also, again, when I've like transferable skill to industry, I've seen that I have to be so patient with my experiments, because when they go wrong, it's a real disappointment. But, you know, you take a step back and you try again, and you just keep doing it until you get it right. And then, you know, in the end, it works out. So, so yeah, those are a few things that kind of I've picked up that I can transfer, like the skills I can transfer from music to my industry, like science and research.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think one of the things that I definitely want to highlight to everyone is that there is that tendency of things that you might not necessarily think of at the time is a skill that you've like picked up from doing these creative adventures. But it is something that you have picked up, and it's something that will just come naturally now that you've done this. And when you implement it to other, spheres of your like life, whether it's your academics or your career, you will see that you've like developed. And so I guess, bringing it, giving an example for myself. So with the poetry and music, like Sam said, it does give you that that insight of like self-reflection, which especially when it comes to things like interviews is one of the things that you have to be really good at. The main reason being is obviously there's always that question of like, what's not necessarily what's your weak point or what's your weakest, skill, but, things like they ask like questions like that. And you have to be able to evaluate yourself in like a way that's, that's true to you and sounds like realistic, but also, show that even though this is an issue or this is, an area where you're not the strongest at, you're still working to develop that. And it's one of those things where it does help you to be able to talk like that. And, like Joshua said with the voice acting, that's another key thing as well. Because like we said, the way that you carry yourself in an interview when it comes to like publicly speaking as well is definitely key. And I'm sure like if there's anyone listening and you've had interviews, I'm sure you can relate. If there's anyone that hasn't had interviews, when it comes to your time to do interviews, you'll see this too. There's definitely this tendency that you'll need to carry yourself in a professional manner, especially now more than before, because, with interview, or I think all interviews still at the moment are online. So there's still this tendency of you don't want to, seem too relaxed because you're at home. Even though I know that, I've been one of those people that's, business on top, wearing the smart shirt, smart t-shirt, and then just like, tracksuit bottoms at the bottom because I want to be comfortable. But it is one of those things that you do need to be aware of. And you just do need to take into account that, even though you're at home, you still need to carry yourself in this professional manner, and the way that you speak and how you make yourself sound interesting to the interviewer will be the main thing that they'll pick you up on. Obviously, things like your grades and what you do outside of university is a good thing to get you through the door to the interview. But getting from the interview to the job is one of those things where you'll need to show that, like, that engaging side of you to sort of like, I guess like a story. You want to be engaging the reader, who in this case is the interviewer, to what you're saying. So when they ask you these questions, you'll be able to show off, speak in a professional manner, show, even if, you've never done a placement or you've never done professional work in the office before, to still be able to show that, like show as if you have and you've been working for ages, is definitely a key skill to have. So yeah, thank you everyone for that. And yeah, I hope that everyone listening has, thought about in their own lives, think about those transferable skills. Like we said, you might not necessarily recognize it from the get-go, but it is something that you can do afterwards. So yeah, just think about that in your own life. So as we've all seen, we've definitely highlighted the idea of being creative is something that 100% should be encouraged, and that is a great thing. But from personal experience, I know it can definitely be hard to always stay creative. Whether this is through different things you're trying to do in your personal life, you're trying to do something and then it just doesn't work out, or whether it's, you're trying to be creative and you've just sort of like lost that, not necessarily pizzazz, but you've lost that that creativity feeling, the feeling when you first started and you were like making loads of musical pieces, or you were taking loads of like really cool and artistic photos or drawing artistic things, and then you hit that point of just like, you haven't done it for some time, you're looking down at your creative thing, whether it's, like I said, drawing or poetry or whatever it may be, and you're just like, what do I want to do on, and you don't know where to start. So like I said, we can all relate to that at some point, and I'm asking everyone here today as well, if you've struggled with being creative at a certain point of time, like I said, whether it's through either the two things that I mentioned, and if especially if you could say how you overcame that, because I think that's one of the things that people listening will be thinking about. They'll be thinking, I do want to be creative, but I have tried and it didn't work out. So I guess starting with Josh, what's one, can you give us a time when you struggled with being creative, and then how did you overcome that struggle?
Thanks, Jeffrey. So the first thing I'd like to say is that one thing that I found out about creativity is that it is relative. So what one person might say that isn't creative, someone else will say creative. So like one good example of that is a lot of Picasso's paintings. Some people might not see it as a really good form of art, but others would enjoy it. And the second thing I'd like to start off with is also a story that was told to me. And I think I also watched it on a TV series, that when Albert Einstein was trying to come up with the theory of relativity, he hit a stumbling block and he couldn't pass it. So what he decided to do was to do mundane tasks that would help him to basically clear his mind and also to relax him. So I think that's one of the things that I always try to do, is to find things that help to relax my mind, whether it be playing a video game, whether it's going for a nice walk, going for a jog to get some fresh air, whether it's watching a TV show that I really enjoy, listening to music I like. I think at times when we are extremely tired and we have this stress because we believe that we should have created our project, we should have finished our project, we should have been at a higher stage than what we are now, the anxiety kicks in and it makes us make even more mistakes. A good example of this was when I was actually doing a bit of voice recording for a indie video game that someone was trying to set up. And the deadline was coming up. I had been working, so I didn't fully focus on the video game itself. So then I was stressed because of the time level. And then I kept on making mistakes when I was trying to read and go through the script that was given to me. And the more and more I made mistakes, the more stressed I got. So one of the things I did, which was really good, is just to take a step back from it, do something else that helps to relax me, do something that takes my mind off it completely so that I actually can have a mental break and also a physical break from it. So the best thing I did was I went on to play Jeffrey at FIFA, which I did beat him handily. And then I also went out to get some fresh air. I went to go out with my sister for a quick walk as well. And it actually helped as well because it actually took my mind away from it. Another good example I have was I was trying to make one of the beats that I made for Hit Record for one of their video games that's coming up, which we might talk about later in more detail. And I kept on missing the beat. Every time I wanted the actual vocals to come out and be more prominent in the song, it just wasn't working. So even my brother Jeff may help me with this one. He said, just take a break from it, just do something else, which I did. And then when I came back the second day, the day after, I was able to actually say, yeah, I can do it this quite quickly. Why didn't I think of this before? Why didn't I just move this here, for example, move the beat back a few more seconds, increase the vocals, increase the volume for the vocals, and change the pitch a bit, and now it actually fully works. So I think the most important thing is if you're having struggles, whether it's writer's block, whether it's having difficulties, how to start a project, because that's one of the major issues is, how do I start this project? I have this big idea and I'm finding it difficult to start it. I think the best thing to do is to take a break, write down everything that you need and what you need to implement, but also scheduling breaks for your brain to have a break from what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And, for the record, I will say, anyone listening, my FIFA skills are greatly being undersold by Joshua. I am very, very good. So I will just say that for the record. But yeah, bringing it back to creativity, I think Joshua's definitely right. And like you said, with the case of, when you're trying to do something, and you just wasn't sure how to do it, it is true. Just doing something to get your mind off it. And, it links to our episode about revision that we were saying that, you need to schedule in these breaks, because if you don't have breaks, you'll just be like working tirelessly. And, like we said with being creative, that some of these creative ventures that we've got, unfortunately, they aren't our full-time job. So we have to schedule in time around our full-time job, or, around our academic study to do these things. And sometimes, when you've had like a day full of lectures, you're tired, you might not necessarily feel up to, writing poetry or making a beat, but doing like a mundane thing that can just help you, start to think about, okay, it'll just take your mind off it. It'll be something to relax, whether it's like, reading or like playing video games or things like that. Just something that, you're not really will get your mind off what you're, the thing that you're trying to do can really help. But yeah, just make sure, I guess the one thing with that is just always make sure that you don't like spend too much time, because I know from personal experience as well that there'll be that time when you're doing a mundane thing, whether it's like you're reading a really good book or you're playing a game on your console, and then you just like Nanushka said, you didn't schedule this is how long I'm going to spend on it. You'll be doing it for like ages, and then you'll like Josh said, it came close to his deadline to upload the thing. It can be the same with you, whether it's with like with coursework or with any creative venture that you've got yourselves. So just take that into account. If you are going to do these mundane things, just schedule how much time you're going to do on it. I think one good piece of advice that's given about revision, but it's still relevant here, is for every hour that you do something, give yourself like a 10-15 minute break, and just have those days of rest, of all those minutes of rest, especially because we're all on screens now. Just have, even if it's just like going for a 15-minute walk or a 10-minute walk, or going to just read a book for 10 minutes, doing stuff like that is really good. And when you do that, I highly encourage you and we said it in the written session again, using your phone, there's technology on your phone. You've got the do not disturb mode. I know I've got a Samsung phone. They, in the new update, implemented a like focus mode. So you can just tell it, I don't want to see any notifications. I don't want my phone to, make a sound or to vibrate when I get notifications. Like, only just let me know if I get notifications from, these apps, because I'm expecting something important to come. So just let me know if I get any of this. But apart from that, just don't do that. So use the technology around you to help you to be able to, improve your focus, and you'll see just the, what great work you can do. Thank you very much for that, Joshua. But yeah, going on to Sam, I guess, Sam, is there any stories that come to mind with you where you've struggled with creativity?
Yes. Yeah. I'd say I struggle with it all the time, to be honest. And I think creativity is linked to sort of everything we do, really. And I was just thinking, actually, there are sort of three main ways that humans do, or humans, I don't know, sort of exist in some way. And what we're doing is we're either consuming, we're creating, or we're not doing anything. And I think we need a balance of everything. So I think if our creativity isn't going so well, we might need to try the other things. If we're trying to create and there's just nothing coming, we might have exhausted ourselves. And there are two ways, I guess, to get over that block. One of them is, again, to consume to get ideas. So to consume more, you could listen to music, look at paintings, look at other people's paintings, take in works of art, take in, and any form of, but we also consume, we consume on another level, where we consume when we're taking in information that we need for, if we're studying or if we're at work, or, there are so many things that we need to consume. And I think that there's certain energy you can get from that. And I think the more that you consume, the more that you then need to release it and create. Because if you're just consuming, you're just taking on other people's opinions, taking on other people's advice, taking on other people's realities. Where actually to create is to, show your own reality, which is very powerful. I think also we consume the wrong things. So again, if you're finding that you've hit a block, I think, learning to focus on what to consume the right thing, to consume something that's positive rather than negative. You could go home at the end of the day, stick on BBC News and be miserable because it's just all the stuff that's gone wrong in the world. Then when you go to create, it might not be, you might not have the energy, or your energy might be in a bad place, in a negative place. Where I think sometimes to create, if you're finding a block to create, you've actually just got to find the good things in life to consume, so that what comes out of you can be good. It's a bit like eating, if you don't eat the nutrients, then your body doesn't get made into those nutrients. So you need to consume that nutrient rich information and experiences to be able to create good things. And then obviously the third thing I was saying was doing nothing. So like doing nothing basically. Could be meditation, could be going for a walk, could be just anything that's sort of plain. But I'd say, going for a walk depends what happens on the walk. But, generally, if you're trying to keep yourself mindful, and that's, I think, when a state of mindfulness comes in, reconnecting yourself to that state of just stillness. You're not consuming, you're not consuming, and you're not creating. You're just there. You're just being. That again, it sort of connects you to that inner resource that you yourself truly are. And I think that some of the greatest creations that we come up with as human beings come from a place of complete stillness in us, when we've made these realizations that are sort of deep inside us, where we can sort of see the big picture, and we're not directed by the things that we consume, by other people's opinions, but we're also not focused on creating something. We're just there in tranquility. That can get the creative juices going, better than anything else. So those would be my bits of advice. Just those three things: to consume, to create, or to do nothing, and just choose and see what you need in your life.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Sam. And that, I think, what you said there was very powerful. This idea of complete stillness, and I think especially, there's two things I want to talk about from what you said. But I think the first thing, like you said, this idea of stillness is something, I wouldn't say it's disappeared from the world. I think, like people said, COVID, did have a lot of downsides, but it did give people this idea to just stop and truly think about, themselves, their health, their well-being, and, reflect on that, which is definitely powerful. And I think, like you said, that it's only in moments of stillness do we get, the clarity to do these different things. So whether it's insight on coursework or insight on, a creative venture that someone's doing, and it's definitely a hard thing to do. We live in a world where everything's a bit, fast paced. We get news so quickly. Like you said, all you have to do is flick to BBC News, and you'll get the latest news update. All you have to do regarding, even like your favorite celebrity, just as long as you're following them on Instagram. Now Instagram allows you to let you know as soon as a celebrity uploads stuff. So you're always in the know-how. And there's never this, take a step back, pause, reflect on life, and just take it slow. It's always this very fast-moving thing. And I think you're definitely right. It's one of the things that we've unfortunately lost over the last couple of years, but it's definitely it's a key thing for us to have. Thank you for that. And I guess the second thing I wanted to say is, like you said, is sometimes the news. So I guess sometimes, like you said, sometimes I guess outwardly sources can I guess put a damper is the best way to put it on you being creative. So like you said, this idea of if you're always checking the news, most of the time you're not seeing good stories or good news, and it can have a huge toll on someone. I know even on a personal scale, I do check the news from time to time, because especially with my degree, some stuff in the news is actually quite relevant. So I need to be aware of certain things, but I do try to, not necessarily always check it every day, because like you said, there are some times when you see like a really sad story or something that really, gets to you, and it's I guess it makes you question the world sometimes. But I think, like you said, just having those stillness of, moments away from technology, moments of just, you're not necessarily listening to music, but you might go on a walk out somewhere and just appreciate nature, for example, or you might go and read a book and just, appreciate the silence. I know, being at home, it's definitely can be hard to have silence when you've got everyone working in the house, and every room from top to bottom is basically being used as someone's office. But try as much as you can to just have those moments of stillness, and just use those to reflect inwardly, to just take a step back, pause, rest, reflect, and then like you said, it'll just be a huge eye opener. So thank you very much for that, Sam. Nishka, have you got any stories that you want to say that reflect any struggles you've had with creativity?
Well, what can I say? Like I said, I guess in the last point that we were talking about, it requires a lot of patience in music to kind of get everything right. And when you feel you can't do it, it's just a bit of a downer and a dampener on what, like, you're thinking, okay, I'm spending so much time on this and it's just not working out. Why? Everyone else can do it. Why can't I do it, kind of thing? And then it's like, you've all been saying before, you just have to, first of all, take a step back, because if you keep doing it, you're going to get frustrated and you're not going to want to do it anymore. And then it's just going to, it's going to spiral out of control. So it's exactly like you said, to just take a step back and, do something else, clear your head, and then come back to it later. And like, it's more like, just forget that thing exists. It depends on what you're doing. For example, if you're writing, I guess, and just put it away and come back to it at a later date. Because, if you're still thinking about it further down the road, like in the future, you're going to think, this is something worth coming back to. Like, do you know what I mean, kind of thing. But then I think another thing that I found is, if you take less time on something than more time, it's so much better. Because if you can treat it, say, like a game. So you can say, okay, I've got 10 minutes to just try and do this bit, and then I'm not going to do it for, like, I don't know, the rest of the day or for another few hours. And if you just take time to just focus on, like, in my case, like, it would be one, like, small phrase that's really, really difficult, but I have to just do it. It kind of, that you only have a limited amount of time. And okay, if you can't do it the first time, it's not the end of the world, because, you'll do it again later. But you don't just stand there for hours on end, just doing the same thing over again and getting frustrated because just nothing's working out. And I think another thing that I've seen, like, I don't know if you guys have watched Bohemian Rhapsody, the film that came out, but basically I'd read somewhere that it took around 10 years or something for them to film, because they just needed to get it right and it just wasn't right. And so they didn't want to put something out that wasn't perfect, let's say. And then even within that, you could see when they were actually recording the song Bohemian Rhapsody, how long it took, because how many changes Freddie Mercury was making here and there, and he put it away, then he came back to it and he wanted to add this to it and that to it and change this and change that. It's just that process of putting it away and coming back to it and looking at it in a completely different perspective and a different light. And that's the same for anything, to be fair. Like, even at university with your writing, if you're looking at something for a long time, and if you're just doing that one thing for such a long time, you just don't see what's wrong with it or how it can improve. So you just need to either get someone else's opinion or keep it for a few days and come back to it and then think, okay, this is the problem. I don't know what I'm doing here. It doesn't sound right here. Let me change and make it better. So I think the thing that I'd say is take less time with it and, keep it aside for a while and then come back to it with a completely fresh perspective.
Thank you for that. And I think, like you said, this idea of a fresh perspective is very good. And I think it's very interesting that you brought up Freddie Mercury, because he, I don't know if you guys know, he's a legend. Yeah, honestly, he's a very, very talented individual. And one of the things that I saw, I don't actually remember where I saw it, but they were talking. It was something to do with Freddie Mercury, and basically said that, and I guess it links into the idea that we're addressing today of creativity. And it basically highlighted that he used to have a journal next to his bed, and anytime he would he would be dreaming, and I think that's where it was either Bohemian Rhapsody or what song was it? I think it was Bohemian Rhapsody, but basically he was dreaming one night, and that's where the song just came from. It just came from a dream. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to keep a journal under their bed, and if something pops up and you think it's great, use it. But I'm saying basically like these moments of stillness, like he had, Bohemian Rhapsody is a very well-known song. Even years after it's come out, it's still very popular. And it's just one of those things of just having these moments of stillness, like we've said, and just taking a step back, realigning your focus essentially, allows you to, whatever you produce once you've done that will just be so much better than if you like pour out all this content at once. So I guess, on a personal scale, I can definitely, like I mentioned before, I don't even remember the last time I did poetry before this year, but maybe it was end of 2019, maybe early 2020. But yeah, it's just been ages since I'd gone back to my poetry, and I just there had been like a period of time where I was just like, I definitely want to write a poem. I want to go back to it. I want to, get back to writing. But then I was just like, what am I going to write on? And it just definitely like was a huge, like it basically like stopped me from being able to properly, write a poem and do anything that would be like super beneficial. So what I did is I asked my sister for some advice, and she gave me like, topics that I could do it on. And that was a huge help. So my advice to anyone listening would be try and use, friends and family around you to help you. I know, like, it's mentioned before, this hit record thing, and I'll be explaining it literally in the next section. But even on there, like the resources I upload on there, I get my sister or my brother to just have a read, let them, or like, if there's a photo, let me know what they think of the photo. Is it cool? Do they think, this could be improved, or, I should do this with the lighting or that with the lighting? So use your family and friends, because, they are the realist critics. I think someone said that they're like the realist critics you'll have, because your family will give it to you straight, I'm not saying that true friends will give it to you straight. I'm not saying that, some friends won't give it to you straight, or friends won't, be supportive. But, using these resources and, these friends, using your friends and family is a huge benefit, because they, like I said, they will be real to you. And especially, I know some people have mentors as well, and using them as well can be a huge help, because they, the whole idea of a mentor is they're supposed to help you develop yourself. So, they'll be able to tell you, if you want to, at some point, if you want to make your creative venture a professional venture, they'll be able to, support you with that. And like in the previous episode, we talked about, Brunel's PDC, that's the Professional Development Center. They do have facilities within them. There's an innovation hub, which basically is all about students who want to set up businesses. It doesn't necessarily have to be like, I want to set up a marketing team, or I want to become a digital creator, and I want to create a digital content team. But it can literally just be like, I want to go into photography, or I want to start selling art, or I want to become a poet. Like, what can I do? And they're really supportive. I've been there a couple of times, and it's really good. And like we mentioned in the last episode, they run like monthly competitions, and I think we mentioned it in the first one as well. They run yearly competitions where students, first place wins, I think, up to £10,000 to start up their business venture. Second and third place, I think, still win money, but not as much. But they're basically like, even if you're a runner-up, or you're second or third or first, like, you still get a platform to raise your business. And like we said, it might not necessarily be that you're just like, okay, cool. So there's going to be a competition next year. Whether it's at Brunel, I know other universities run theirs, but we're not saying that you need to apply from the get-go. It might be that you say, within the next 2 years, I want to apply because I want to, have a business plan. I want to know who my target audience are and how I'm going to be monitoring the income my finances and how will I be getting income, especially, you know, now if you're an events team or you want to do an events team thing, you know, with COVID, that sort of like put a spanner in the works in that. But yeah, just thinking about that, using those resources, and there's another one for anyone who's like, you know, interested in it, and we may put it on the website. If it's not on the website, just look up Kickstarter. The web page is called Telling Your Story, but someone, you know, gave that to me, and it's really good because it gives you a platform to, if you do want to, you know, start up a creative platform or anything like that, or you want to start up a photography, you want to, you know, be a paid photographer. It allows you to say, like, you know, who are you? What are the services you're going to be doing? Why should someone look to go to you rather than someone else? What's your unique selling point? Like things like that. And the one on Kickstarter is really good because Kickstarter obviously is a page, you know, kickstart projects and people finance it. So yeah, it's definitely a good page to check out. And I definitely recommend if anyone goes, just type it into Google or Bing or any search engine and you should find it. But using that page to you know, build up yourself is definitely a good thing. But yeah, thank you everyone for everything that you've said. I'll resume the recording, and yeah, I will get into it. So yeah, as you know, as we've heard, there's a lot of things that come under creativity, and there's a lot of different things you can do to help you if you're struggling with it. Now, now you might be thinking, who are people? Sorry, I can go look into regarding creativity, or you know, I can, you know, follow to improve creativity in my own life. And, you know, there are many platforms that you can use to, you know, express your creativity. Depending on what you want to do, there's different ones. So, for example, there's Fiverr, which is like an online service where you can say that you basically offer gigs that you can be paid for. You set the price. You can negotiate different prices with any customer that you have on there, but you can say that, you know, you want to be paid for, you know, you want to be paid to edit someone's photos or manage an Instagram page, or, you know, give them more followers, or proofread someone's work, or, you know, write stuff for people, or edit films and things like that. So Fiverr is definitely one. If you're very experienced, or, you know, you've got a wide range of skills, I definitely recommend using that. But another one that is really good and sort of links into the MC of the month, we'll go directly into who they are. The MC of the month is later on. But it's called Hit Record, and it's an online creative platform set up by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's an actor. You might have seen him in Inception or The Dark Knight Rises. But he's in the last couple of years, he's raised awareness on like this idea of being creative and, you know, expressing yourself. And it's been really good to see him do that, because I think especially everyone from any age, from any place, can understand the idea of, you know, being creative and how the struggles that sometimes occur from like wanting to be creative and not actually being able to. So Hit Record basically is an online platform where, you know, people post projects on there. Some of these projects are just, you know, I guess not necessarily like get to know projects, but they're just like projects for people who might not have experience in the area. So that's why I would definitely recommend this more over than Fiverr. So if you're new to photography, there's like photography for newbies or voice acting for newbies is one of the projects. They also do like daily questions as well, which, you know, isn't necessarily, you know, expressing your creative side, but it does ask like really cool questions like, what's your favorite superpower that you would like to have? Or, you know, what movie remake is better than the original in your opinion? Or what's your favorite food, or things like that, which, you know, definitely make you think. But then what's really good as well is some of these projects are professional. So I don't know if anyone's seen the movie Project Power. It was on Netflix, had Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Jamie Foxx in it. But the music and the theme song for that was actually made by individuals on Hit Record. And what's great is these individuals aren't necessarily people who, you know, their full-time job is working with the film industry to make music. These were individuals who they made like amazing pieces of music, or they rapped along to someone else's music, or they uploaded like really cool visuals or like cool video effects, and then their work was included in the film. They get paid for this, they get paid for it being on Netflix, and yeah, these like I said, not all of these are necessarily like professionals in this industry, or professionals in that area. These are some people like us who are creative and love being creative and like implementing these things. So I would definitely recommend Hit Record for anyone. They also did the soundtrack for a game called Watch Dogs Legion. If you haven't heard of it, it's developed by Ubisoft, the gaming company, but it's focused, it's in London. The whole idea of the game, I won't ruin anything, but the main thing is, London's basically a police state, and you're trying to get rid of the corrupt organization that's basically running London. But the reason why I would recommend that is because it's really good at, all these people's music appears on the radio in the game. And it's really good because it even tells you like it was from Hit Record. They're credited in the credits at the end. And not necessarily only, for the money, but it's a simple way for, people who it might be like a side venture that you do. So whether you do music creation as a side venture, or poetry or lyric writing as a side venture, it gave people, this platform to show, people in the industry that this is my work. And, some of these people have been, able to work with other organizations. Some of the projects have led to people. So there was one called Create Together that was all about, linking everyone during the pandemic. And it was basically started last year. And what was really good is everyone who like contributed to that and was credited in the end got an Emmy. And the show won an Emmy and it was really good. They did a season 2 all about climate change, which, is something that I'm very passionate about. But yeah, I definitely recommend Hit Record as a someone to follow. And there is a TED talk from Joseph Gordon-Levitt on creativity. I think it's about like 14 minutes long, or they've got like a 14-minute long clip on YouTube. But yeah, I definitely recommend it for anyone who is interested in knowing more about being creative and why being creative is such a good thing, and why you should never suppress it, even if it doesn't link to your career or your future. The benefits of being creative. So our MC for this month, we've actually got 2 for our last episode. It was basically a very hard choice between the 2 because they're both very creative. So the first one, like I said, is Joseph Gordon-Levitt and the Hit Record team, because the work that they do is honestly amazing. And I think just the to have someone create a platform for all these people who might not necessarily be specialists in the area but are very passionate about it, or it might not be their career but they're very passionate about it, to have a space where you can like upload projects and upload photos, or you do voice acting or video editing or animations or art, and to have like other people, whether it's people in the industry, recognized people or famous people, commenting on your work and being like, wow, this is really cool, or this is really good. It's just amazing. And, there's nothing more than, getting kind words from someone saying, this honestly is amazing. Or this, this thing you did really captures this. I think it's really good. And what's nice is, it leads to more and, more ventures for you to do that. So I know my brother's told me before that he's used Hit Record and has been asked to do voice editing from people on Hit Record who work on other stuff on other websites. So that's amazing to see. So definitely Hit Record is something that I would recommend if anyone's creative, they've got any skill like I said, it's not necessarily has to be that you've got a photography page, or you've got like a nice camera and you're passionate about it. Even for newbies, they've got loads of stuff on there as well that will help you to develop this skill. And yeah, I would recommend those that you do, go on there and you do follow them. They've got an Instagram page and a Twitter page, I believe, but they've also got a website that you can sign up for. It's completely free. You don't have to pay anything. There's no like paid plan and free plan. It's literally just, you can upload as much content as you want, whenever you want. You can set up a project yourself if you want. So if you want to, create a music video or anything like that, you can create a project and people can contribute to it. But yeah, it's a really nice network to be a part of. And I've been a part of it, I think, for coming up to maybe a year or 2. And it's just honestly been a great thing. So if Joseph Gordon-Levitt or anyone from the Hit Record team is listening, thank you so much for the amazing work that you do on there. But the other MCs or the other two MCs are Chloe and Hallie, or Chloe x Hallie, as they appear sometimes online. And they're both Chloe and Hallie Bailey. They're two sisters that they're basically they're singers, but they also do acting as well. And yeah, the reason why I picked them is honestly, both of them are just super creative. They've been both doing amazing work throughout the pandemic. You know, they had an album released last year, and it's been doing like really well. They've been, you know, avidly campaigning about, you know, the importance of not sustainability, but Black Lives Matter, and, you know, raising awareness about that. Haley, she's currently in London, you know, filming Little Mermaid, which is an amazing thing, and congratulations to her. We wish her all the best with that. And Chloe's been doing like, you know, phenomenal work with creating music. I think one of the things that I really love that she's been doing is she's been creating these like, you know, showcasing how she creates music. So, you know, she'll be listening to a beat and then she'll like it and then she'll add something on top. And as someone who, you know, I do like making music. It's not as much as my brother, but I definitely do like making music. It's wonderful to see someone do that process. And I know that she's been doing, Chloe's been doing like lives. They've both been doing lives, but I know Chloe did a live talking about her creative process and how she, you know, is creative. And I think it's hugely inspiring to hear that, because like I said, when it came to me and, you know, the poetry, and all, you know, photography, even when I was just like on Hit Record, I got to a bit and I was a bit like, I don't really know what I should do next. Listening to like what she was saying and seeing how she was being creative was just so inspiring to me. So again, Chloe or Hallie or both of you are listening to this, you know, you're both amazing, talented women. You know, your acting careers and your music careers are just getting started. And honestly, we can't wait to see the amazing things that you do. And to all three of you, Joseph, Chloe and Hallie, we'd love to have you, you know, fingers crossed, we'd love to have you on the show later down the line, because it'd be an amazing experience to get to know you guys and to get to know a bit more about your creative process. But yeah, that's basically it. We're now at not only the end of episode 10, but the end of season 1. And it's been a great process. We thank all our speakers. Thank you very much, Joshua, for being on today's episode. It's been great to, you know, speak to you about creativity. And I guess it's a bit weird to be interviewing your brother, but it's honestly been fun to have you on here. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And I've enjoyed myself on here, and I'd like to come back soon.
No, definitely. We'll definitely have you on for another episode. I think at the start you were raising, you know, highlighting key points about the music industry, which I definitely think is a good thing. And yeah, it's been great to hear from you, because I think one of the things that you did highlight, I know we were coming to the end, but one of the things you did highlight about, you know, these independent artists, not necessarily knowing the ways around the music industry is definitely something that, you know, does get exploited. And it's definitely nice to have someone out there looking out for the little guy. And you know, that sort of links into one of the MCs, Chloe and Hallie. They actually, on all the music that they do the whole thing. I'm sorry, I forgot to add this before, but they do the whole creative process. So like writing the songs, the beats, they do it themselves. And, you know, I think that's just amazing, because that's one of the things where, you know, you don't see a lot. I'm not saying it never happens nowadays, or even like, you know, smaller artists that aren't maybe as well known don't do that. But for you know, two individuals to be credited as the lyricist and the person who makes the beats and doing all of this, you know, amazing work on their own song is truly phenomenal. So like I said, we'd love to have them both on, or one of them even, on the show. And hopefully, you know, they do listen to this and do see this. But yeah, so thank you very much, Joshua. And, you know, for our other speakers, thank you very much for being on this show. We're glad to have you on there. It's been a great experience to have you to do this and to see, you know, how you've impacted individuals. You've definitely impacted, the three of us, me, Sam, and Nushka. And they've definitely had an impact on. I know for a fact they've definitely had an impact on our listeners as well. So just to give you a bit of notice, like I said at the start, we're not ending. Don't worry, we're still going strong. But we will be having a panel discussion appear online, and you'll be able to see our faces, because that will most likely be a video one, and we'll be uploading that to YouTube, as well as uploading the audio to Spotify as well. But in addition to that, we'll be doing, continuing on with these important and relevant topics for season 2. We'll have some of our guest speakers back. Like I said, we'll be having Joshua back to speak about the music industry, and Reham back to talk about, she's going off to a placement, so she'll be discussing her placement as well. But yeah, we'll have loads of guests back next season, so don't worry, we're not going anywhere yet. But just keep an eye out. Like I said, the easiest way to know about new episodes is to go on the website, subscribe to our mailing list if you want to, or you can follow us on Instagram, pick up the mic Brunel, and all the links are in our bio. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone. We wish you all the best. If you're going through exam season or waiting for results, we wish you good luck with all of that, and we will see you all soon, so take care.